Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be watching this video. Today, I want to go through some of the experimentation I've been dabbling in over on Raindex. Raindex is a DEX platform on the Flare network, but it's not your typical DEX. It doesn't have LPs or anything like that. But it does allow you to express your strategy or express your thesis with more intent. It definitely allows you to deploy strategies with more explicit control, so you can kind of gauge your performance a little bit better. It definitely has a little bit of a learning curve. So, like I said, it's experimentation. I'm really in the process of trying to figure out where Raindex can fit in my overall strategy more consistently and more so on the long term side, because I do like how much more control you have when deploying these strategies. So, with that being said, let's get right into today's content. All right, so this is my Raindex strategy. It is a auction spread strategy. And if I'm being honest with you, I can't even really take the credit for this strategy. My good friend Whale has also been experimenting in Raindex, trying to figure out what strategies work, which don't work, which work for his portfolio, which works for my portfolio and or strategies, and so on and so forth. So big shout out to my good friend Whale. I'm pretty sure we'll be having some other content related to Raindex coming out soon, as well as exploring more in detail strategies with the DeFi Den. So if you're not a part of Flare Forward's DeFi group called the DeFi Den, you should probably check that out. We definitely have a lot of fun. We have some weekly calls in there as well. So it's a budding community of learners, and that's always a good thing. So looking here, the way that you can kind of break this down is I set my minimum amount of wrap flare that I want to 55. So for the way that you can read this is for every one USDT zero, I shouldn't get any less wrap flare than 55 even, right? So looking here at the individual trades, you can see the IO ratio. So the current IO ratio is at 56 in a few decimals. So that's above my minimum amount of wrap flare, and that's 56 wrap flare at the price at the time of 0.017 cents. So the way that you can kind of multiply this is if you were to multiply this, you would get one. So for every one USDT zero, I am looking for about 56 or about 55 wrap flare. So here you can kind of do the 56 in at least 6 decimal places to match up with the output. Do 56.178044 times 6.963888 USDT zero, you'll get 391 and some change on wrap flare. And you can kind of see it's executed pretty consistently. So I deployed this strategy on the 6th of June, and it stopped trading on the 8th of June. So about 2 days worth of trading, 2 days worth of cycling this liquidity. It took 2 days to complete the cycles of liquidity. And now I'm able to compare. So because now this may not be a exact comparison or a all completely fair comparison, but I wanted to compare what I ended up with, which was 7,627 rat flare, versus if I were to just make that same trade on like an open ocean or something. So keep in mind I started with 137 USDT zero. Now I have zero USDT zero because I've cycled the liquidity. I started with zero rat flare, ended up with 7,627 and some change on rat flare. So if I were to take this exact number and go over to open ocean, yeah, I would have ended up with 7,570 rat flare for a similar IO. So actually for open ocean, for every one USDT zero, I'm getting 55.2148 um, rat flare. So that's a little bit higher of an IO, but comparatively, it looks like I did beat out a swap like open ocean if I were to just take the same amount and swap it on OpenOcean to get a similar amount of rat flare, but I would end up with more rat flare just going through Raindex. So again, take that comparison with a grain of salt. There could be some variables there that we're not accounting for. Also, keep in mind the IO ratio in Raindex fluctuates. So I started at 55 and it kind of increased as trades went on to eventually get to 56. So, especially often here where OpenOcean is saying for every one USDT zero, you can expect 55.2148 rat flare. Um, let's see, 55.2148. Honestly, I was getting more rat flare uh, with my Raindex strategy starting with the second trade. So same amount of USDT zero, but I was getting more rat flare in the long run. So I'm definitely happy with my results. I want to try a more advanced strategy, if you will. I'm really trying to create what would be an LP, but using Raindex, right? Now, obviously, the difference between Raindex and normal dexes, like a Spark Dex or an Enosis, is that they have incentives and they have fees that you can be paid in, right, for providing that liquidity. Here, you wouldn't really be providing liquidity. You're just trading two assets, right? So trying to figure out how to calculate like your profit and your loss within a strategy like that, how well and how performant that strategy is, would be nice to be able to track. And then hopefully, and I had some questions about this APY section, so I probably need to reach out to somebody over on Raindex, or if you know what this means, feel free to say so in the comments. I'm all for learning. We're all here to learn. But negative 49.93% in rat flare doesn't sound right. I hope this is a UI bug and that's not necessarily the case because, I mean, again, if I compare the same amount of USDT zero and my what I ended up with using Raindex versus if I were to make the same trade via OpenOcean, I would win out going the Raindex route. So I would think that my APY on the Raindex strategy would be positive, not negative. So again, need to do some more digging, need to do some more research on how that APY should be read. Is it really supposed to be negative? What does it mean by in rat flare? Still some questions, but I'm in the experimentation phase. So questions are always good to have. That's okay. Like I said, we're all here to learn and nobody's an expert. So anybody that presents themselves as somebody that knows everything, probably not trustworthy. So keep that in mind. But yeah, with that being said, I will continue to experiment with Raindex. I really like the platform. I'm still learning the platform. But to me, in my opinion, Raindex is probably one of the most underrated platforms or protocols within the Flare network. And if people knew how to use it or used it more, I'm pretty sure we would get more shine. So I'm hoping to help change that and experiment a little bit better. And yeah, we'll be experimenting and within the DeFi Den community as well. So again, if you haven't joined that, if you haven't checked us out, go check us out on Flare Forward and join the community, man. We're learning. All boats will rise with the tide when you can compare and bounce ideas off of each other. DeFi is not a game that should be played in silo. You should be able to reach across the aisle, ask questions, and learn together. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content. And yeah, catch you in the next one. Peace.